work. We got to put something in the newspaper that lets everybody know that you're asking to be named the executor of his estate, let's say. That's got to take some time. And then once that happens, then you'll get appointed as the administrator of his estate. That can take about a year for this whole process to go through, between putting things in the newspaper, keeping the estate open, giving all the creditors a chance to raise their hand. So that takes a year, roughly. It's a very public process. I mean, these files are public files. So when somebody wants to know how much somebody has in assets, you get out of the probate court and it tells you. There's an inventory, there's how much somebody has. And it can be expensive. If you're going to hire an attorney to do something like that, it tends to be long hours, a lot of work, and it gets expensive, and it can easily be avoided. You touched on it. The way to avoid these things is to either have your assets titled accordingly so that you don't pass away with just your name on anything, whether it's bank accounts or CDs or investment accounts. Some of the investment accounts you can add a named beneficiary to. That helps you avoid probate. And then the favorite of mine, which is something that's standard, and people think, oh, it's really a rich man's planning tool, is this idea of a trust. And what you'd be essentially doing, we'll take Joe's example. If Joe had that bank account, and instead of just in his name, he had that bank account in a trust, we'll call it the Joe Soros Trust, and let's say he made you the trustee. If something ever happened to Joe, you would go to the bank and you would say to the bank, I'm the successor trustee. Joe's passed on. Here's a copy of his death certificate. They would move you up, let you now make any decisions you wanted, and then what we do is we take Joe's wishes that would normally be in a will, we put them in his trust. So of course everything would go to me because I'm a nice guy. And so what you would do is, instead of having to probate the estate, you would write me a check. And that's it. That's the probate process. There's no letter in the newspaper. There's no filing down at the probate court. There's no 1 year wait. It takes what can be a public and long process, and it makes it very quick, and it makes it very easy. And what it also does is it allows you, as Joe's trustee, to administer those assets if something ever happened to Joe. So if Joe ends up in the nursing home, and the nursing home is looking to get paid, or if Joe's got some bills that need to get paid, whether it's on his house or it's cable or it's taxes, you as the administrator have the ability in the checkbook to make all those decisions, and all of that happens outside of the court process. It's very, very smooth, it's much cleaner, and it makes it much easier and much more inexpensive to do it that way. So for anybody who's concerned that a trust is for the Kennedys or the Buffetts or the Gates of the world, not the case. And in a trust, we can put liquid assets, we can put real estate. So mom and dad have a house and they want to make sure the house goes to the kids. They want to avoid probate. We can do that. Vacation property, also a very popular asset for a trust, because mom and dad might have a Cape House. They want the house to go to the kids. They want the kids to pool their money and take care of the Cape House. We can do that through the use of a trust, and allows for a much more efficient management of the assets.
Right. So you brought up a good point, which a question comes up. The trustee is really bound by whatever the document says. So everyone says, well, can I trust this trustee or not? But the reality is the trustee is bound to do whatever the document says.
Well, that's right.
They can't say, well, I don't agree with that, and I'm going to decide because I want to go here, there, or the other place.
Yeah, the trust really lays out the rules for all the people that are involved. I do a lot, even though as an elder law attorney, the thought is that you only work with seniors. I do a lot of planning for people our age who have young kids. And a lot of that planning would involve what I call tragedy planning, which is if something ever happened, God forbid, what would happen to your life insurance and your house and your assets like that. So what a lot of times we'll do is we'll set up a trust with the kids named as beneficiaries, and if something ever happened, life insurance, sale of property, that all ends up in the big bucket, the trust, okay? Maybe a family member or a loved one as the trustee, and then we'll lay out the parameters of when the kids might actually access that money. For those of us who have kids, we always hope that our kids make great decisions at 18, 19, 20, but that's just not how life works. And so if you have a $2 million life insurance policy and something happens, and then you say to yourself, well, if my kids are 5 or 6 years old and that $2 million grows to $4 million, that's a substantial amount of money. They might not be at the right frame of mind as an 18 or a 19-year-old to make good decisions with that money. You can use a trust to lay out the rules as to how they get that money and when they get it, and then you can sort of name somebody in the family as the banker if you want to, and that person can hire somebody to manage the money, or they can do it on their own. So as an asset administration tool for mom and dad with trying to pass assets to their kids, for young moms and young dads who want to make sure that if any assets get to their kids, we can set it up so that the kids get 25% of it at age 25, 50% of it at age 30, let's say. That's pretty standard schedule. And then the hope is that they've made, at that point, they've kind of outgrown their wild years, and then at this point, when they get that money, they'll make better decisions with it. So, to your point, the trust, the four corners of the trust really do lay out the plan and how that money is to be spent.
That's an excellent point, Jay. And you don't realize how specific you can be with a trust and really designate when you want the beneficiaries to get the money. It seems to me, though, that it's an often underutilized type of estate planning tool. It seems like more people should have trusts, and they don't. Mm-hmm. What's the reasoning for that? Is it very expensive to set up? I mean, just not to get any specifics here,
sure,
but
yeah.
I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, why do you feel it's underutilized?
I think it's underutilized because I think a lot of people are under the impression that I have a will and I'm all set. They've been conditioned to think you got to get a will, you got to get a will. They haven't really explored or sat down and had explained to them really sort of the intricacies of a will gets you part way there, but there is a better way to do it, and the trust, I think, is a little bit misunderstood. It's a little bit confusing for folks. I know when I explain it to my senior clients, I feel bad because, at this point they've had the bank account for 30 years. It's been in their name. They work with the same people at the bank, and then they're probably at their most inflexible point in their life. And then I come in and say, hey, by the way, we're changing your bank account. We're going to ask you to put everything into a trust. And for some folks, it's a tough concept to sort of wrap their hands around. The other reason that I find that people don't do it is they don't know who they would involve in the planning. And so when I say to somebody, well, we have to name a trustee who would make the investment decisions for you, some of them don't want to make the kids the trustees. They're actually using the trust to protect the kids. So yeah. they need to find who that person would be and who they would be comfortable with, basically handling their affairs.
So an impartial third party, maybe?
Impartial third party, some good advisor that they might be working with. I've had clients ask me if I would be a trustee for them and handle their affairs. And I would do that for clients as sort of a dispositive approach to their plan and say to them, if all you want to do is get the assets to the kids and you don't feel that the kids can handle it, I'm happy to do that. I've sat down and had that situation come up. But I think the biggest reason, and I hear it all the time when I talk to people, I have a will, I don't need a trust. It's overkill. People think it's overkill, and they think that they don't have enough money for it. But then when you start down, we sit down, you start adding the assets up, you realize very quickly, a house out in the Metro West area, some money in a 401k or an investment account, a house down the Cape, you get to $1 million pretty fast without even realizing it.
Well, not only that, but like you said before, the specifics of how specific you can be in a trust when you write it as to when they get the money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You can set it up as to when they get the money. You can set it up second marriage situations a lot of times. We'll deal with, we'll set up a trust where husband or wife, the money will pass to a trust and the surviving spouse will just get the income, and they'll get the income for their life, and then when the surviving spouse passes away, then the money gets split out to the kids. And so, as families change and as second families and third families come into play, a trust document really makes it very easy for us to put a plan together that carries out mom or dad's wishes, and also makes it easy to administer that plan. So the only time I would not recommend a trust is if somebody really didn't have a substantial amount of assets. I'm talking liquid assets or no real estate, which happens. Somebody comes in and needs a very simple plan. I've done that before, but for the most part, somebody's got a little bit of money. It's much easier to administer it and pass those things along. And rather than not do it, you're doing the people that you leave behind quite a favor by making it easy for them. It becomes just a paper caper between the real estate or the investment companies as opposed to getting the court involved.
And I guess another question that comes up quite a bit, just because somebody has some money in a trust, that does not necessarily mean that it's protected for nursing home care.
That's an excellent point. There are a couple of different types of trusts that people can use. The one that's probably the most popular is a revocable trust, which means you can change the trust at any time, right? So we'll pick on Joe again. Joe has a revocable trust and he has some money in the bank in that trust. And you guys have a fight and you say, well, I'm going to change the trust. I want to amend the document. he can do that. He can make any and all changes to it. He can change the trustee. He can change the beneficiaries, and that's an absolutely very flexible. You don't give up any control by doing that. The other thing you see over time is you see people putting money or assets into an irrevocable trust, which, as the name implies, it's kind of a lockbox approach. Something goes in there, that's it. You set it in stone. The people that are the players at the time usually try to be the same players over time, and you really can't undo that. That protection, literally giving it away, having no control over the asset, is part and parcel of the Medicaid planning that we do for clients and address long-term care concerns.
Yeah, good points, Jay. All good points. We may have to talk to you after about setting up the BizBuzz Trust. I think that's maybe coming next, actually. And as we hit the national scene, and I just have one more question for you, Jay. And why did you choose to get into practicing law?
You know, I found myself going into law because it was a real natural transition from the work that I was doing when I was at Fidelity. So as a financial advisor at Fidelity, you would tell people these concepts at a very large 30,000-foot level. And at some point I said to myself, you know, I think I want to spend more time getting down into the intricacies of this planning and taking it to the next level and working with clients on these issues. That's what drove me to head in the direction of law school, and then that's what drove me into this area.
Good.
Thank you, Jay. It's a wonderful show. It's very informative. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how might they contact you?
Well, they can always reach me at my phone number, 617-306-1572. Elder Law is not a 9-to-5 business, so anytime anybody has any questions, Monday through Sunday, give me a call 7 days a week. And they can also go to my website, www.jmarsdenlaw.com. Just the initial J, jmarsdenlaw.com.
Right, and you're in Holliston.
And I'm right in Holliston, and I'll come to somebody's house and sit down and talk about what their plan looks like, and there's no charge for the initial consultation.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm Mark Leone, my co-host Joe Suez. Thank you all for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Jay, thanks again for coming on. It's good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
And please check out our new Facebook page, BizBuzz. And new and improved, we've added a link to YouTube where you can catch our new shows. We're going to be recording them and putting them on YouTube. And soon we'll have a library of shows on YouTube. So for all you who maybe missed our past shows, or you know people who can't catch our show because of the time, you can always go to that YouTube page and watch them. So thanks again, and have a great night.
Right.
Do princípio e nunca pode acabar. Ilumina em qualquer sítio sua magia de amar. É o